The therapist's clock mocks me with precise, metallic clicks. I twist my wedding ring, a nervous habit David once found endearing. Your husband's depression isn't my fault, I declare, but Dr. Wynn's steady gaze unravels my carefully constructed defense. Afternoon sunlight filters through Venetian blinds, casting prison bar shadows across her pristine carpet. The leather couch beneath me creaks, another accusation. My designer handbag sits beside me, containing 3 phones, mine, my burner, and David's, which I'd quietly cloned last month. Tell me about the tracking app, Sarah, Dr. Wynn suggests, her pen hovering expectantly. My throat constricts. The familiar panic rises. The same suffocating feeling that drove me to install it in the first place. He was acting suspicious, I explain, my voice adopting the tremulous quality that usually generates sympathy. Late meetings, mysterious texts, any wife would investigate. The lies flow easily, practiced performances that have served me well. But last Tuesday changed everything. I found his journal, hidden behind old tax returns. The entries painted a devastating portrait, not of the unfaithful husband I'd imagined, but of a broken man systematically convinced of his own insanity. Memory ambushes me without warning. Last summer's barbecue, when I deliberately mentioned Jennifer from David's office in front of our friends. She's been texting him late at night, I'd said innocently, watching their expressions shift. David's face had crumpled, bewildered. But I don't even have her number, he'd protested. I'd shown them the texts, sent from the second phone I'd hidden in his car. Sarah. Dr. Wynn's voice pulls me back. You mentioned Jake from accounting. The name triggers an involuntary flinch. Jake, who started as lunch meetings and ended as hurried encounters in his car. The guilt sits like acid in my stomach, but I'm already formulating explanations, justifications, carefully crafted stories about David's emotional unavailability. It wasn't an affair, I insist, though the lipstick-stained receipts in my purse tell a different story. David drove me to it. Always working late, constantly distracted. My voice trails off as Dr. Wynn slides a paper across her desk. It's a prescription. David's antidepressants, dated 6 months ago. The same period I'd convinced our friends he was becoming unstable. The same time I'd started meeting Jake. Your husband called this morning, Dr. Wynn says softly. He's moving out. The room tilts dangerously. My carefully constructed reality fractures like thin ice beneath my feet. He can't leave, I whisper, but the words lack their usual manipulative power. He needs me. Megan, my best friend and unwitting accomplice, had warned me last week. You're pushing too far, she'd said over wine. The David I saw yesterday isn't the same man from 3 years ago. I dismissed her concerns, confident in my ability to maintain control. Now Dr. Wynn hands me a mirror, literally, a small silver compact from her desk. Look at yourself, Sarah. Really look. My reflection stares back, mascara smeared from tears I don't remember shedding. Behind my head, the wall clock's hands move relentlessly forward. I keep a list, I confess suddenly. Every time he talks to a woman, every minute he's late, every call that goes to voicemail. My fingers tremble as I pull out my phone, opening the meticulously documented spreadsheet. 3 years of evidence. The word tastes bitter now. Dr. Winnie's the list silently. Each entry reveals my obsession. Smiled at barista, 8:45 a.m. Mentioned female client, Tuesday meeting. Password changed, suspicious timing. This isn't protection, Sarah. This is persecution. The truth detonates like a bomb in my chest. Each spreadsheet entry, each manipulative text, each orchestrated confrontation, they form a mosaic of destruction. My destruction, his destruction, our destruction. I need to show you something else, Dr. Wynn says, retrieving a folder. Inside are emails from David to his sister, spanning the last 2 years. My hands shake as I read. March 2022. Claire, I'm losing my mind. Sarah says I called her names during an argument, but I know I didn't. She showed everyone a text I supposedly sent, but I never wrote it. August 2022. The credit card statements don't match my receipts. When I mention it, Sarah says I'm being paranoid. Maybe I am? December 2022. She told our friends I'm having a breakdown. They look at me differently now. What if she's right? Each message chronicles his descent, a descent I engineered. The realization hits with physical force. I didn't marry a monster. I created one, then blamed him for what he'd become. My phone buzzes. Jake, asking about lunch. The ordinary request now seems grotesque, like a murder weapon displayed in bright sunlight. Tell me about the night you met David, Dr. Wynne suggests. Her voice cuts through my spiraling thoughts like a blade through spider silk. The memory rises unbidden, clean and pure before I poisoned it. 10 years ago, at a bookstore cafe. He'd knocked over his coffee reaching for The Count of Monte Cristo, apologizing profusely while trying to save the book. I'd helped him clean up, charmed by his earnest embarrassment. His hands were steady then, unlike now, when they tremble holding his morning coffee. He was kind, I whisper. The word echoes in the sterile office space. So kind it made me nervous. The truth spills out like blood from a wound. I kept waiting for the other side to emerge. The cruel side, the lying side. My laugh sounds hollow. I couldn't find it, so I invented it. Last night, floods back, finding David in his study, surrounded by old photos. Our wedding, vacations, simple dinners at home. I've been trying to find us in these pictures, he'd said without turning. Trying to pinpoint when you started seeing a monster instead of me. The worst part? In every photo, the only monster was my reflection in the glass. Dr. Wynne's office window frames the gathering storm clouds, nature's pathetic fallacy made manifest. A paper cup of water sits untouched on the side table, condensation bleeding into the wooden surface, like secrets seeping through carefully constructed lies. I tracked his movements, I continue, each word extracted like a splinter. Convinced the neighbors to report his comings and goings. Created fake email accounts to send myself threatening messages I could blame on his instability. The methodical destruction of trust sounds clinical when listed this way. My phone lights up again. Megan this time. David just called. Sarah, what have you done? The question triggers a cascade of memories. The lipstick I planted in his car. The evidence I manufactured of non-existent affairs. The careful triangulation of friends, turning them into unwitting weapons. Each manipulation a brick in the wall I built between us. There's something else, I tell Dr. Wynne, pulling out the final piece of evidence, a journal entry David wrote yesterday. My hands tremble so violently I nearly drop it. I forgive you, Sarah, not because you've asked, but because holding on to this poison is destroying me. I hope someday you find whatever it is you're looking for. It was never me. The words blur through my tears. His forgiveness feels like a knife. Clean, precise, lethal. Outside, rain begins to fall, each drop an accusation against the window glass. Your husband isn't the only one who needs healing, Dr. Wynne observes, sliding a tissue box closer. The clock on her wall shows 4:45. 15 minutes until our session ends. 15 minutes to decide who I want to be. I reach into my bag, withdraw my phones, the main one, the burner for Jake. David's cloned device. They form a triangle of betrayal on her desk. Each one represents a different version of my lies. The public facade, the secret deceiver, the obsessive controller. I don't know how to stop, I admit. The confession scrapes my throat raw. I see threats everywhere. In every smile he gives, every conversation I'm not part of, every moment he exists without my control. My fingers twist my wedding ring, the one he placed there with such hope, such trust. Dr. Wynne leans forward. The first step is choosing to see yourself clearly. No justifications, no deflections, just truth. And the second step? Accepting that you might lose everything you fought so hard to control. The rain intensifies, drumming against the windows like urgent Morse code. My reflection fragments in the glass, a kaleidoscope of the woman I've become. Behind me, the phones lie silent, 3 black mirrors reflecting harsh fluorescent light. I destroyed him methodically, I say, each word precise and painful, dismantled his confidence piece by piece, turned every strength into a weakness, every certainty into doubt. The catalog of crimes spills out, no longer wrapped in justifications. I made him question his sanity while I was the one who was broken. Dr. Wynne's pen moves across her notepad, recording this moment of clarity. The sound mingles with the rain, creating a strange symphony of confession and consequence. My phone, my real phone, buzzes one final time. David's message glows on the screen. I've packed my things. Don't try to convince me I'm imagining this, not this time. Attached is a photo that stops my breath. Us on our wedding day, my white dress gleaming, his smile radiant with trust. Below it, his words, I hope you find peace, Sarah. I need to find mine. The clock strikes 5. Our session is over, but something else is just beginning. Standing in the parking lot, I watch Dr. Wynn's office light flicker out. The rain has stopped, leaving puddles that mirror the darkening sky. 3 phones weigh heavy in my purse. No, 2 now. I left David's clone on her desk, the first piece of my dismantled fortress. Tomorrow, he'll finish moving out. Tomorrow, our friends will learn the truth, not from my careful manipulations, but from the reality I can no longer control. Tomorrow, Jake will wait at our usual cafe, checking his phone, eventually realizing I won't come. A car splashes through a puddle, its headlights catching the mist. For a moment, it reminds me of that night in the bookstore. Warm lights, spilled coffee, a kind man with steady hands reaching for a book about revenge. The Count of Monte Cristo still sits on our bedroom shelf. David's copy, water-stained from that first meeting. I wonder if he'll take it with him. I wonder if he knows I've become both jailer and prisoner in our own story. The first star appears through breaking clouds. I delete Jake's number. Then Megan's. Finally, my fake email accounts. Each deletion a small step toward whatever comes next. Some things can't be fixed. Some trust, once broken, stays broken. But maybe in the breaking we find our truths.